Yorgos Lanthimos, the Greek freak himself, and I am not talking Giannis, baby. The man is back with his new film Bugonia, and boy, is it a time. And I myself am a very big Yorgos guy, proudly one of the 17 people who actually liked Kinds of Kindness apparently, but for a lot of people this will be the true follow-up to his Oscar darling Poor Things back in 2023, none of that anthology nonsense. The people were fiending for a traditionally structured film because who even wants to have fun anyway? But it's here with Emma Stone and the Plemons in tow, and I'll be the one to say it. I think these guys work pretty well together. Stone and Lanthimos have one of the most fascinating working relationships between a director and actor in recent memory, and sprinkle in a character actor darling like Jesse Plemons, and you've got an electric trio a la Space Ghost. All they're missing is their goofy animal sidekick. Why the fuck was the first thing I thought of Space Ghost? Anyway, Bugonia, back on track. If you don't know, it follows a man named Teddy and his cousin Don as they kidnap and interrogate a high-profile CEO convinced that she's secretly an alien plotting the Earth's destruction. What a synopsis. And don't get me wrong, Emma Stone has done some incredible work with Yorgos, with her performance as Bella Baxter remaining a personal favorite of mine for the decade, but this is certainly the Plemons show. Much like how Poor Things doesn't work if Bella doesn't, this crumbles if Teddy doesn't due to our empathy for him being pushed and pulled at the expense of the story. He's very flawed and very erratic, but Plemons plays him in a way that doesn't necessarily grip us through how human he is, but how determined he is that what he says is true and his actual desire to better the world. A big part of that is how he talks, filling in gaps in his knowledge with nonsense, breaks in his speech pattern, misquoting the Geneva Conventions because he really is winging it to an extent, really lets us question. Is he actually right and under-equipped, or is he astronomically out of his depth and insane? The possibility of Michelle, played by Stone, being an alien works because even if she is a human, she is very detached from an average person. Phrases like, let's unpack the problem, let's start a dialogue, and other corporate jargon, while being the kidnappee, really makes you question the authenticity of who or what she is from the perspective of Teddy. Because even if she's not an alien, she's definitely lost a part of her humanity, so it's hard to empathize with her. While Teddy's tragic life is very easy to feel for to an extent, we want to understand why he's doing what he is. I've seen a couple reviews say things like, is there even a point in talking about Emma Stone in a Yorgos movie at this point? So I guess let me be so bold. She does an amazing job filtering the character's thoughts and emotions through her word choice and faint expression. Her ploys and attempts at negotiation are something you'd expect from a hostage, but through Stone's ever cold and domineering demeanor, it really does make you question if she's even concerned or feeling any kind of human emotion. So Emma Stone is good. What are you gonna do, scold me for speaking the obvious? The only other character with real stake in the story is Don, played by Aidan Delbus, who is kind of the secret sauce to how well this dish is served. He's the only character that the film allows you to come to a conclusion on and actually latch onto through his hesitance to the kidnapping or the psychological and physical repression that Teddy puts onto him. He's our lens here to remind us if one of the other two is behaving out of the ordinary, since they often snap or explode through their conversations. He keeps the situation very grounded, and what Yorgos crafted here with these characters is nothing that should surprise based on his previous work. The characters are very rich in flaws and humanity, with his ever-present themes of power and control making the plight of Teddy very easy to latch onto despite how he's often presented. But if I do have an issue with the movie, it's in how it unwraps the story. Almost every question you could possibly have is answered by the end, and with what the premise of the film is, I almost would have preferred it to be more inconclusive and open to interpretation. Yorgos is the kind of director that I don't have any concerns with going in, and I kick my expectations out the door. And not to say that it's predictable per se, but I spent the first half waiting for the moment this goes full Lanthimos, and when it does, though shocking, it turns into a pretty by-the-books Yorgos tone, which is not a bad thing by any means. The guy knows what he's doing, but as the film becomes more deranged and explosive, it lacks the meta punch that, say, Dogtooth or Kinds of Kindness have by the end, because as the plot suggests, there are two possibilities, and it becomes very clear that it will stick to only one of these two options, so you may not really feel surprised or necessarily moved by the end. But what I will say is the gore and practical effects in this, when it takes its turn, though sparse, in layman's terms, it rocked my shit. It looked great, and I would love to see more body parts fly in future Yorgos movies. And outside of the performances and strong concepts, the package this thing comes in is just as much of a strength. Jerskin Fendrix just whizzing it up in the studio, crafting a very subtly imposing theme that's reminiscent of some classic European horror films that help uplift the unpredictable atmosphere. And Robbie Ryan's cinematography is unsurprisingly amazing. His use of intimate close-ups and focused wides almost force you to observe every expression and movement while somehow capturing a small goodwill with tones that just make my eyes tingle in a good way. In a time where the wealth gap between the top and bottom grows at an alarming rate, becoming so large that it feels like an otherworldly construct to many, it's no surprise that this concept captured Yorgos' interest. As I said earlier, he tends to dabble in themes of control and dominance, and though this does do the same, it also feels like a deconstruction of sorts for Yorgos, who offers very complicated strands of empathy for the audience to grasp at for both parties. And with such a gripping premise, a film power trio, and a fantastic presentation, the ending just left a little bit to be desired, though the first and second acts are some incredible work. But though it may not be his best, I think Bugonia is still a very strong addition to his filmography that just maybe answered too many of its own questions. But a question I do want answered is, what did you make of Bugonia? Did you like it? Did you not? Let's discuss, man. Start a dialogue. Come on.